Okay, this is Black Re-Education TV, where we're stepping back from the brink towards a more meaningful future. With our theme verse being, Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So if your ancestors were scattered via the transatlantic slave trade or the Mohammedan Arabic Islamic slave trade, then you are the children of Almighty Sunini Nanini Samandla, the mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Oh yes, Black history. The study of the Bible is Black history. And so you're welcome tonight. Welcome to the show. Welcome. Share the link to everyone. And let somebody know tonight that you are connected to the show. We give him all the praise. We give him all the glory. We give him all the honor because he is due all the praise and all the honor. Oh yes, share the link and text a friend. And after the show, make sure you follow us on all the channels. It is on Telegram Live, it is YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and the recording is uploaded on Bantu. You are welcome tonight to the show. All praises to Almighty Sunini Nanini Samandla. We give him all the praise and all the glory. We say hallelujah to Saneni Zaneni Samandla. We say hallelujah, hallelujah. Black Re-Education TV UK, waking up the Bantu from sea to the sea. Black Re-Education TV UK, waking up the Bantu from sea to the sea. Black Re-Education TV UK, waking up the Bantu from sea to the sea. Black Re-Education TV. Every time we begin to say who we are, we're being told when we say we are the chosen, we're being told that we are anti-Semitic, to shut us down. But this time, the long time, this time, the been before time. This is what I have to say, and I think you will agree. There is someone who's been running around, claiming to be you and me. And now there's no compromising. It won't be stopped. The awakening is real. There's no compromising. And we don't care how you feel. Trust, hear, and understand. We're simply speaking truth. We're exposing that fake holy land and gathering all the proof. We are not claiming to have found everything, but the Most High helps us remember. Just like He opened up our eyes and showed our New Year's in September. We don't live in fear. We're not on our own. Shimike Modimo will never leave us alone. There's no more picking the fruit from off of
will bring them down to their knees. Their noses in the air, and they're still walking tall. But pride comes before a fall. Now we'll see what comes about, unless we do forget. The Most High commands a righteous rule, and Bantu, we're up next.
Come on, Bantu, let us stand to our feet, turn towards the south, where the true Jerusalem Ikayalami is located in the Kingdom of Judah, Africa, the Holy Land. Let us speak with one voice and sing. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Darkness is black as night, will cover all nations of the earth, and soon His glory will shine over you. Mighty kings will come to see your radiance. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. 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 Come on, Bantu, let us stand to our feet, turn towards the south, where the true Jerusalem Ikayalami is located in the Kingdom of Judah, Africa, the Holy Land. Let us speak with one voice and sing.
Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Darkness is black as night, will cover all nations of the earth, and soon His glory will shine over you. Mighty kings will come to see your radiance. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. 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 For soon His glory is shining on you.
Come on, Abantu, let us stand to our feet, turn towards the south, where the true Jerusalem Ikayalami is located in the Kingdom of Judah, Africa, the Holy Land. Let us speak with one voice and sing.
Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, as black as night will cover all nations of the earth, and soon His glory will shine over you. Mighty kings will come to see your radiance. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. For soon His glory is shining on you. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all nations to see. Arise, Jerusalem, for soon His glory is shining on you. 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 For soon His glory is shining on you.
Back from the brink towards a more meaningful future. Back from the brink towards a more meaningful future. Called by my name will humble themselves. If my people called by my name will humble themselves and pray towards a more meaningful future. Back from the brink towards a more meaningful arise and go. I will 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 arise and go. Go, 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 go.
I found you. Forgive me for not looking for you sooner. They made us call upon other names. Now that I found you, you are the only one who deserve worship. Oh, Sonny, Nani, glory to your name. You are the name above all names. Hallelujah. My Bantu Father, I found you such a long time through the night. Forgive me soon. They gave us different gods to write. And my Bantu Father, you're shining bright like sun upon my soul. Only you I worship truly. Oh, Sonny, ni, nani. Oh, Sonny, ni, nani. Oh, glory to your name. You're the name above all names. Hallelujah. I've been lost, but now I'm home. In your arms I found my peace. No more wandering, no more alone. All false beliefs will cease. Call upon you every day. Oh, the warmth in your embrace. Songs of joy I'll always play. Feel the love it can't replace. Oh, Sonny, nani. Glory to your name so high. You're the name above all names. Hallelujah. Take your throne in us. Oh, Sonny, nani. Glory to your name so high. You're the name above all names. Hallelujah. Take your throne in us.
To my Bantu family, my Bantu tree. Open up your heart, open up your heart, open up your heart, and you will see. Open up your heart, and you will see. So, please, please, please. There's a spiritual war against your seed. You're the only savior that we need. Open up your heart and you will see. So please. He lives in you, he lives in me. Was it lust of the flesh? Did we grieve your heart? When we bow down to Nimrod's pagan gods? When we serve these gods, does it cause separation? Or do we grieve your heart serving gods of the nations? Open up your heart and see. So he lives in you, he lives in me. His DNA inside, breathe. Spiritual divinity. His royal, holy Bantu tree. Glorious legacy. So have some questions. So the people with self-reflection. Why are we stiff-necked and don't understand? Can you show them cane seed wicked hand? Why do we call on European gods? Would you tell them it's a religious facade? Will you keep your promise you made to Abraham? Will you still cover us with your loving arms? Why did Lucifer hate your first male seed? Because you gave a black man authority to lead. Open up your heart and see. So he lives in you, he lives in me. His DNA inside, breathe. Spiritual divinity. His royal, holy Bantu tree. Glorious legacy. We need you, we love you. So we can't win this war without you. So we need you, we love you. So we can't win this war without you. So we need you, we love you. So we can't win this war without you. So we need you, we love you. So we can't win this war.
Bao Nini Bao Nini Bao Nini Bao. We giving all praises to our Heavenly Father. Follow His way, son, you always gon' prosper. No, that's the name I need, the one that got you. If you ever lost, then I pray that He gon' find you. He gon' leave 100 sheep just for the one. Know that you are special, yeah, you really be His son. Young and cozy, you kept along where you from. Listen, then He be the light until your feet and on your path. If you need something desire, before you was in your mother's womb, He had your back. So all the praise and worship, yeah, we give Him that. So all the praise and worship, yeah, we give Him that. Bao Nini Bao. Elijah the prophet came near and said, sending not any of Abraham, Isaac, and a Kobe. Let it be known that this day you are sending not any of a Kobe, that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O sending not any. Hear me, that this people may know that you are sending not any Samantha, that you have turned their hearts back again. Then the fire of sending not any fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the waters that was in the trench. And when the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, Sinini Nanini, he is Samanda. Sinini Nanini, he is the Samanda.
Everyone, small and great, they will worship Sinini Nanini.
The little children will be saying, Sonini na nini. Sonini na nini.
Bao. Bao. Nini. Nini. Bao. Nini. Bao. Nini. Nini. Bao. Bao. Nini. Nini. Bao. Bao.
I guess you might say that as a people we have come a long way, and I guess you might say although things have changed, some things remain. You extend your hand and support all the things that I do, but on the other hand, you say I've offended you. Is that truly brotherly love? There is greatness in store. If we come together, we could be so much more. But deep in your core, there is a sin that lieth at your door. When you extend your hand and support all the things that I do, but on the other hand, you say I've offended you. Is that truly brotherly love we see in you? Do we have the heart of the Father? Do we have the heart of the Father? Do we have the heart of the Father? Does He dwell in you?
You shall love Samini Nanini, your mighty one, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
When you extend your hand and support all the things that I do, but on the other hand, you say I've offended you. Is that truly brotherly love we see in you? Do we have the heart of the Father?
Thanks Sunini for breaking down every obstacle in the path to the redemption of his people. And we join the prophets that said, therefore the redeemed of Sunini Nanini shall return and come with singing unto Zion. That's what they said in the Bible. But we know it's Jerusalem. It's
paradise, 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 ingefuna ukuya Jerusalem, 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 ingefuna ukuya Jerusalem, 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 yeah, I wanna go to paradise, where the roads gold and the weather's nice, where the Salema ain't on fight, no moon or sun, cause you be the light, way truth and light, so many Tata and Zami, mighty one of a Kobe, out New Egypt, you gon' lead us, you the one to redeem us, you love us but don't need us, fast action, you gon' free us, yeah, I can hear the shaking of the bones, all cause the one on the throne, a Kobe, yeah, we gon' home, so then please take us home, eat paradise, eat paradise, yeah. Eat paradise, eat paradise, eat paradise, eat paradise, eat paradise, eat paradise, ingefuna ukuya Jerusalem, 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 ingefuna ukuya Jerusalem, 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 yeah.
Thanks Sunini Nanini for breaking down every obstacle in the path to the redemption of his people. And we join the prophet.
Okay. Greetings tonight once more in the precious name of our Father Almighty, Sunini Nanini Samandla. Welcome to the show. Happy Sabbath to all the children of the seed of Abraham, Issachar, and Jacob. We thank you tonight for joining us. And if you're joining us from the Pacific Islands, Australia, New Zealand, or from the troubled Arab, Asian, and European lands, welcome tonight. And if you're joining us from the Caribbean islands, North and South America, or even Antarctica, you are also welcome tonight. And if you're joining us from the most precious real estate on earth, that's Africa, so-called Africa, the Holy Land, Al-Kebu land, Azania, Canaan's land, the Promised Land, Sub Saharan Africa, all the names. Welcome tonight. Welcome to the new series, Africa is the Holy Land. The long trek to freedom, the final exodus. Tonight's installment, part number 1, the European created exodus. The European created exodus. We give thanks and praise tonight for another Samba and the fact that we are in the new year. We are in the season of springtime, and we're getting down to the place of celebrating the exodus of our ancestors from Egypt's land of bondage, from the house of bondage. We are getting ready to celebrate that moment, remember that occasion when our ancestors came out of Egypt. And let me remind us that there were no European ancestors in Egypt at this time of the Exodus. There were no Hebrew Israelites there. There were no Jews there. There were no children of Cain, Genesis chapter 10 of the table of nations, people in that land. And Japheth is not the father of the children of Genesis chapter 10, verse 2 to 5. They were not in the land. Land of Israel is not the Holy Land. That's the land of Israel. I know the Arabs will have dispute about that, but certainly not Africa. And so tonight, as the caption says in the topic, the European created Exodus. And so tonight, I want to examine a few statistics and want to put together an understanding of the fact that this Exodus that is before us is one, there's a different Exodus playing out before us right now. It is created by Europeans, but we'll come there. And so tonight on the calendar, if you notice, this is the 27th day of the Gentile year and month, September 2024. It is the 10th day of the first month of the Bantu year. And it means that we are effectively in the 28th, which is Samba, and we're coming up to the 1st of October, where we celebrate what the nations call Passover, we know as the Exodus from the land of Egypt. I'm avoiding that word deliberately now because we know it's connected. What was emphasized there is the blood. We don't do blood. We don't do blood. So then he washes with water, not blood. And those nations that like blood, we can see them being displayed on the earth, drawing the blood of each other. That's not us. That's why I say don't identify yourself as a Hebrew or an Israelite or a Jew. You are not. Those are different children. And so the Passover concept of sprinkling and spraying blood and dabbing blood around the place, we want nothing to do with that blood. We are talking about our ancestors coming out of Egypt and they celebrating the last day in Egypt. And we're going to talk some more about that as we get closer to the day. But tonight, the conversation is about the European created Exodus. Now, in the first Exodus, when our ancestors left Egypt, the house of bondage, they came out after, I think it was 250 to 280 years where they served as slaves. But prior to then, they were free. They went into Egypt on their own. They went down there mainly because there was a famine. As usual, there's been a regular famine, 3 famines up south in southern Africa. The area that the temple stood in is like a desert. It's in the area between Botswana and Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, that space there. And in the first famine that was there in the day of Abraham, he went down to Egypt and sojourned there in Genesis chapter 12. And from there, he returned in Genesis chapter 13 to the south from whence he came. And so these children went down there because there was a famine. Issachar didn't go down, but Jacob went because Joseph was in Egypt as second in charge in the kingdom of Pharaoh, his cousin. Hallelujah. And so there is a reason, there is always a reason for an Exodus. There is always a reason for an Exodus. Pharaoh sent and invited Jacob and his sons, the remnants of his sons, because Joseph was already there. Now, it is important to understand that story because it has been twisted to mean that Joseph was taken from the Levant. It was twisted to mean that Jacob's name was changed to Israel so that he can come from the Levant, because they say Israel is the land in the Levant. See, none of that is true. And when you understand that none of that is true, you don't call yourself Israel. You call yourself by the name of your ancestor, Jacob. And those who are teaching you to call yourself Israel, be wary. And so, there is always a reason for the famine. And they went down there so that they can have food to eat. And a day came when there arose a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph and his deeds. Because wherever we go, we become the salvation of the nations. And the nations don't recognize that wherever we are, Sunini is there with us, and we become the salvation of the nations. And so this Pharaoh rose and was very brutal to the children of Akobi. And so the time came when Sunini delivered them from the house of bondage. Aren't you happy tonight that a time has come for Sunini Nanini to deliver his people from this house of bondage? And during the time of the preparation for this deliverance, because there is always a preparation time, as the children were preparing for the deliverance, the day finally came. And when that day arrived, they had to leave. So they were eating their last meal. That is the story of the Exodus in a nutshell. And as I said, there is always a reason for an Exodus. And so people will move into spaces because of different situations. And so the title of this show tonight is The European Created Exodus. During the time of the transatlantic slave trade, though it was not an exodus of the nature, we were forced into a house of bondage. Our ancestors were forced into slavery. They were made slaves. They were not slaves. They were made slaves by European nations. And because of that experience, the time has come once more for the deliverance of these children from slavery, from the house of bondage. But what I want us to look at tonight is a slightly different slavery that has been created so that there is need for an exodus. And we were forced into that transatlantic slave trade. Circumstances forced Akobi into Egypt. Whatever is the reason that you had to get into a situation and it became unbearable, there is deliverance. Sunini Nani is deliverer. Tonight we're going to talk about Hezekiah. And we're talking about him because the people of Hezekiah, the kingdom of Judah and Jerusalem, found themselves in a situation that resulted in slavery. They would have gone into Assyrian captivity. The Assyrians have already planned out that they're coming to take the kingdom. And so the people were fainting in heart. But Sunini turned up in the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos, and sent a word to the king, who was very, very uncomfortable about the situation of his people going into captivity. But tonight, we want to look at something a little closer home, where Europe removed the chosen people from their land, Africa, in particular, West Africa, while their cousins, the Arabs, generations before, removed our people from the east coast of Africa, taking them into Asia, taking them across the Sahara Desert into Arabia, into captivity. Sunini Nanini is about to create that deliverance. But there is a subtle, voluntary exodus that people made from their lands. Remember, Akobi went voluntarily into Egypt. He didn't go there as a slave, but he became enslaved while there. And so Europe has created a form of slavery that you and I might not notice. And it's taking place in the 21st century right under our noses. They've stolen the resources of Africa. They've gone into countries around the world, and specifically Africa, and removed the wealth, that which would have sustained the people of Africa, the Holy Land, and give them a good life. And so there is a kind of reverse exodus taking place, a kind of voluntary enslavement taking place without the full knowledge that it is an enslavement, but from which there needs be a deliverance. Now, you cannot be delivered in an exodus. You cannot be removed from slavery if you don't believe that you are enslaved. And that's the danger with some of our people today. Because they find themselves in European lands, because we find ourselves in European lands, we might not see it as slavery. But instructive to us is the story of the prodigal son, who took all that he had. He paid everything. He paid the boats to get him off of the continent of Africa and bring him into Europe. This is the exodus created by Europe I want to talk about. They've enslaved, impoverished, robbed Africa of its wealth, and now the people of Africa are selling themselves into slavery, from which there is going to be need for an exodus. But this exodus that we're talking about being sold here is the situation where Europe has created it. Another word for this exodus, a more sophisticated term that you might recognize, is a brain drain, where the scholars and those who are needed in Europe have been induced in many cases to leave their lands, leave their people, and come away, leaving their people impoverished. So it's like a double blow. The resources are stolen by Europe. The human resources are stolen by Europe. And so so Africa is now left impoverished. Let me share some images with you towards this end. Hallelujah. Bear with me. The long trek to freedom, the final exodus. Ezekiel 36:24 says, "For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and will bring you into your own land." And you can see the graphics displayed there of throngs of people moving in a direction. Part one, the European created exodus. They're removing themselves from their lands and they're moving to Europe. These scenes might not be frequent in other parts of the world, but in this side of the world, in Europe, it is very visible. These are children of the continent in mass leaving the continent, coming to Europe, hoping to find something that will give them a reason to continue living. In Europe has created this situation because they went into Africa in particular and the world in general, robbing them of their resources. And so those lands have been left as a farm. They're farming there. And these people now are coming to where they think, they're following where they think their wealth went, in order that they might be able to achieve or get something back from the wealth that left their lands. They're following it, even to the peril of death. In a normal circumstance, these children of Africa, of the Holy Land, will not venture to do anything like this. They are not fully aware of the dangers of doing this, that in the end they will be rejected and treated harshly. Their names that they call them, it's called refugee. The boat people. But no one is talking about the fact that Europe created this because it went into these people's land, the Holy Land, our father's land, and removed the wealth in such mass that it is as it was though Africa has been frozen in the time of Abraham in certain places. Yes, of course, the capital cities are all built up because they have the hub from which Europe has been drawing the wealth of Africa. I know it's not a topic that they like to hear, but they have to hear it. All the capital cities on the continent is where the attraction of the wealth from the interior comes to the capital and then goes further afield. Very little go back into the villages. The rest come further afield. It's a magnet for European nations to suck the wealth of Africa through those capitals. These children will not be able to afford life in the capital. But it might have been better off staying there than trying to come on a journey that separates, where the water separates you from death. The water on the boat. That's it. If this thing is to sink, they all go down. And they have been going down. Sometimes by mistake, sometimes by an accident, sometimes maybe deliberately, who knows? But many, many lives have been lost at sea. Because these children, as it were, there is a magnet pulling them to Europe. You would have seen the ones moving into America from Mexico, through Mexico, from Haiti to America, from the Caribbean to America. European nations have become a hub, a magnetic hub to draw, creating that exodus. Draw them away from their lands, and many times drawing them into death. Many of the people that come on these boats, they are not qualified to get a job or to get, into the system in Europe properly. So they're forced to become kind of economic slaves. This can end. We'll talk about that another time. But I want you to see the kind of situation that we're dealing with here. Regions from which African migrants are immigrating. From East Africa, Central Africa, North Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa. They are the statistics for 1990 to 2020. That's about 10 years. On the horizontal, you have the years, and the color bars that represent the numbers in millions. If you look in 2020, it is no different to the figures used by European nations to speak about the transatlantic slave trade. It will never be the real figures. If we were looking at a chart to compare the Arabic Islamic slave trade, there would not have been enough millions on that side to represent it. In some books have it as, for the transatlantic slave trade is as high as 128 million. And the Africans speak very freely about the the Islamic slave trade in the region of 140 million. Now, what is this really about? This is about one people using another people to sustain their presence on the earth. So in East Africa, let's stick with the figures for now. In East Africa, that's that bar, the first bar, in the vicinity of just over 4 million in 1990. And I'll slide right up the bar to look at 2020 to over 10 million. That's coming out of East Africa. From just about 5 million in 1990, double in 10 years to over 10 million. While in Central Africa, where the resources that the Europeans need is much present, they don't get to come out like that because the little children are mining these resources and Europeans are accessing these resources. The Exodus created, the European created Exodus. So while the brains are moving and some are moving by boats, there's a set that have to stay there and mine the resources so that European could access it. It's a win-win situation for Europeans. Whether they stay in the continent, whether the chosen people stay in the continent and mine the gold and the cobalt for European nations to come and collect it through the capital cities, or those who can escape and come to Europe with hope of finding something to live on, and in many cases they wouldn't, because the system is not geared to facilitate them. It's not like in America where they use the influx of what they want to call refugees at the time of an election to boost the numbers. Always there is a program on. The European created Exodus, movement of a people. In North Africa, if I go back to Central Africa for a little bit, in 1990, it was just under, that migration was just under 2 million. And in 2020, it has doubled to over 4 million, but not comparative to East Africa or West Africa, because that mineral-rich place, those children are not going to go to school to get a living in that space devastated by wars and famine and all kinds of stuff. They have to go to work. They're not going to have an education. I'm pointing this out so that you can see clearly and understand what Europe has done. But then Europe behaves as though these people are invading their land and taking advantage of their resources. But Europe stole the resources where these people are coming from. Europe has not been creating industries in a way that will benefit the people of those the Holy Land. a matter of fact, you don't even know that it was the Holy Land. They removed the raw materials. Sub Saharan is a place for producing raw materials. Then Europe collects it and processes it and then dumps it back in that space. So this Africa, the Holy Land, will never rise. So it is though the children of another God is oppressing the children of another God. And the children of the other God don't know what they're doing to them. But from time to time, they get carried away. We get carried away with the illusion of inclusion. I know I'm saying a lot here, but I hope you understand. In North Africa, there's a movement. In 1990, just over 4 million, but in 2020, it rose to 10 million. Now, if the African continent is being drained or is producing people to be drained in this way into Europe, in this exodus process, we can see what will happen to Africa eventually. It's robbed of its resources, and it's been robbed of its young people. And therefore, it's been robbed of its development. It's been robbed of its progress. It's been robbed of being made equal with all other nations. And it has not been robbing any nation, but it's been robbed. Just imagine if this robbery stopped of the human resources and the natural resources, what Africa will become. And there are some brothers who understand this in the Sahel, where Abraham came from. And they're pushing to change this. And Europe is unhappy with them. Europe is unkind to them because Europe wants to retain the status quo. They don't want it to change. They will talk about it as though they must make the point, oh, they're coming, they're risking their lives to come this way. This needs to stop. But Europe has created this by going into Africa, the Holy Land, and removing the wealth of Africa, the Holy Land, by force and by subtlety. And it's facilitated by the leadership we're going to talk about in a little while. In Southern Africa, the figure is not as high as East Africa and West Africa, but nevertheless it is, or even even North Africa. So the people of Southern Africa seem to be there's a more balanced movement there. In 1990, it was just over 4 million. And in 2020, it's still in the vicinity of 4 or 5 million. So you don't see that rapid movement in Southern Africa. Now, Southern Africa is where the kingdom of Judah and Jerusalem existed and is. And so there seem to be a more measured movement there. Nevertheless, there is still migration from those locations. West Africa, on the other hand, seemed to be the location of the greater movement. In every year, in 1990, it was over 5 million. And in 2020, it's over 10 million. It's the largest movement. This is West Africa from whence the transatlantic slave trade conducted by European nations took place. So you can see this exodus, this movement of the people, howbeit voluntarily this time, continues. And the reason for that is what I'm talking about. The European created exodus. Because they have robbed Africa, they have created a form of dependency, in that if you don't get into their space, that's where life is. You want to get to Rome, you want to get to Paris, you want to get to London, you want to get to Brussels, you want to get to their capitals, because they've sucked the wealth of Africa and built up themselves to the point where they don't need to go now looking for slaves and slave labor. It comes. The magnet has been set to draw, to woo, to drain. So the natural resources, they go for it. It's mined by local people, and the human resource is creamed off. The doctors, the nurses, the teachers, all that they need is coming from there. It is not my responsibility to look at what is happening in India and China, but the same thing seems to be happening, only that they are more welcome and they are more welcoming to those. They're not going to refer to them as refugees in that manner. It's my understanding that there are schools in India where they're training the next generation for London in schools. These children in that school know that then when they finish their education, they are going to Paris. They are going to Brussels. They are going to America. But the brothers and sisters coming in this process from Africa, many of them are not trained to be coming here. Well, they got a mission. I don't want to talk about that one. Coming from the other countries, the mission this side. But this is what it looks like in the Mediterranean Sea. They cross over, not from Morocco, but they want to get around to get to Spain and Portugal. Hadn't Europe gone into Africa, the Holy Land, and began to steal the wealth of the children of Abraham, this might never happen. But I want to tell you too that a day is coming when you are not going to see this anymore. A day is coming when you are going to see the reverse of this. When the children will be going home. At all means, they will want to get home. And in that day, it will be Europe helping them to get home. And in the story that I'm about to read to you in the book of Isaiah, I think it's chapter 36 and 37. There were those who were prepared and willing to enslave the kingdom of Judah and Jerusalem. The kingdom of Assyria wanted to do that. And they were saying to them, don't fight, don't even think. Just make a deal. If you make a deal with us, we will leave you to eat from your own grapevines and you know, pick your own crops and everything. But we'll come and collect the tribute, the taxes. Europe has a system like that with reference to Africa, where the 14 African countries that had to put their monies in the central bank of France had to pay a higher interest rate to borrow their own money. And this has been happening in the 21st century. Highway daylight robbery. Look at these children. They're not taught, they're not fully aware that all that they need is in their land. But they saw, and some of them participated in digging some of this wealth out from the ground and giving it to Europe. So they say, if we go to Europe, there's a possibility that we could get some of that we have sent there. But they don't understand the nature of Europe. They're not going to get that. But like I said, a day is coming when these boats will be going the other way. Migration within and from Africa. Migration within Africa is the movement within Africa itself, where people are moving from one country or place to another, which was normal. That's how it used to be in the beginning. That's how it should be. Up until people were forced off to the continent and then put into different lands to generate wealth for European nations, that principle has now changed. So the attraction and the magnet has been created to attract people out of the continent. So migration to Africa is very small. If you note it, it's in the little orange-looking boxes. Over the years, by the millions, from 1990 to 2020, migration into Africa is very low. The highest percentage being in 2020 around 4%. Migration within Africa, movement within Africa is in the green. And there's always been a high movement in Africa because people move to where it is necessary and they carry whatever they get back to their families, and the wealth stay within Africa. And then you have migrants from Africa. Again, this is reflective of the movement that we saw just now out of Africa. So it's within Africa, it's larger movement because they move among their families and stay within there. People coming into Africa, the percentage is small. It probably is higher than that now, because now other nations are entering in there to seize on the wealth, because that's where all the wealth has been. And so this is the flow. And what needs to happen, I'm giving solutions tonight, which I normally don't like to do. What needs to happen is that African leaders who don't have the vision to take care of the children, the adults that have put in that are in its care, those leaders should not be leading. And in just a short while, we see the Sahel countries leading the charge and demonstrating to African leaders who have received their countries back from the time of independence, but also sign a pact. And this is what Sennacherib wanted the kingdom of Judah and Jerusalem to do when he came down there. He wanted them to agree to pay tribute and taxes to him. And he just goes sit back down in West Africa and collect the money from up south. And so Europe has crafted a system of education, of political and the Constitution, Westminster Constitution. They've crafted all kinds of systems that they don't have to physically now go to the continent, though some of them will do that. The continent is just generating wealth and handing it over to Europe. And some leaders are doing it for houses in Paris and in London, for houses in Brussels and in Germany. They're handing over the wealth. So their families, individual families can benefit. They don't care about the nation. I'm come to tell you that that day is over. There's going to be an exodus of all that wickedness. It's got to go. Go where you put your houses. I heard the president of Nigeria boasting, Tinubu, that he is rich. He don't want Nigeria people money because he's got an oil refinery in Malta. That is brackish. And such is the nature of the leaders. And when the young leaders like Ibrahim come up, and who is prepared not to even take a salary from his people, These leaders are working with European leaders to bring those nations down who are doing good for their people. I want you to understand the nature of what we're fighting against when we talk about our ancestors coming out of captivity, what we have to build and rebuild, what we have to discontinue and protect our people against and educate our people about, so that generations going down, this will never be repeated, where the Holy Land will be considered as a place for raw material. And that's why I'm very strong against those religious leaders or teachers who want to teach us a doctrine of being Israelite and Hebrew so that one day we can end up back in captivity, because that's where that is going to lead. We are Bantu. We are the holy children, if you want. We're the royal priesthood. That's a better identity. We're the children of Sunini Nanini, and not the children of Israel. So, the chart that is before you, showing some countries in Africa, and it's showing the numbers by millions who left the country. And where the ticks are, it's where there was a conflict and the reason why they left. That is because of conflict. Those are the ticks. And others, they weren't a conflict, but they left. At the top of the list there, but not the highest figure, it's in 1990, Egypt. Now remember, Egypt is in Africa, and Egypt is one of the countries that were repeopled, such as Morocco, and such as Tunisia. Those are countries that have been repeopled, and Algeria. So when people are leaving Morocco and they're leaving Algeria and they're leaving Tunisia, many times it's not because it doesn't have to be a conflict. They leave because they are a mixed multitude, a mixed people, as a people from not original people of Africa. It's not original people of Africa, if I can say it that way. So in Egypt in 1990, I had 1.3 million left. But in 2020, 3.6 million. If you notice, I make reference to Egypt because Egypt is Africa. Morocco, we see another high figure, and those people move because they're basically European Arab people mixed. 1.7 million in 1990, and it went up to 3.2 million in 2020. The Sudan, however, there's a smaller movement. You can see the sudden drop. There is a 500,000 movement there, but it rose to 2.5 million. That's significant. It's not normally high. It moved right up. And this one could be because of conflict, and, you know, Europeans saw oil in that space and they come in and then they fuel conflicts, because that's how they continue to harvest the wealth. They need conflict in the space. So the two leaders fighting in Sudan at the moment, they're fighting each other, maybe for who will gain more wealth to hand over to Europe and the other nations, how much they can sell, how much money they can make. So South Sudan, they've got, they've moved from 500,000 to 2.5 million, while the remainder of Sudan, which is North Sudan, they had in 90, they had 848,000. They rose to 2 million, kind of similar movement, fueled by conflict. Algeria, 928,000, and they move up to 2 million. So you can see the drain that is taking place. You have the DRC, 436, and now you have 1.8 million. You know that these people moving from the DRC will be the cream of the DRC. It's not the boat, the people going by boat. No, it's not going to be. And these ones can come back in probably and be the leaders there to continue the exodus or the movement of the people to Europe. Then Nigeria, 446,000 and rising to 1.6 million. Burkina Faso is interesting. 1 million in 1990 and 1.5 million. It's a real constant across the stream. France got their money. Then you have Mali, 600,000 rising to 1.3 million. Zimbabwe was very low. This is a Southern African country. 204,000 rose to 1.2 million in 2020. Cote d'Ivoire under French rule again, 336,000 to 1.4 million. Ghana, 371 million, just 371,000 rising to just over a million. Ethiopia, another strong place. A lot of gold, a lot of wealth is in these areas, and you can see the movement. But there is a drop in Ethiopia, or stability stabilizing in 2020 to just under a million. So it rose 1.6 million at the beginning and dropped. South Africa seemed to be just below a million, 300,000 in 90, and just below a million. But in South Africa, there's an influx of over 2 million Europeans, undocumented Europeans in South Africa. While the leaders of South Africa, the black leaders of South Africa, is talking about their black brothers that come from neighboring places to get a job and do something. But there are 2 million undocumented Europeans in South Africa. Of course, are the hosts of their brothers and sisters in the Holy Land, in Judah and Jerusalem. And in Tunisia, of course, 465 and 902. And so this is the pattern of what happens on the continent. And so we have an exodus where Europe is attracting and sucking and creaming him off. And then now you have those who will not be able to get a visa to go to Europe. You see them in this way. If they apply for a visa, they will never get it. Never. So they have to resort to getting there in this manner. But do they have to do that? What must change? And what must change? Europe has to be part of the solution, because Europe is the problem. So once you're part of the problem, you must be a part of the solution. And the solution is not building jails for these people in Rwanda and pay Rwanda, because you will collect them and send them to Rwanda. You need to create systems back in that space with the money that you've stolen, with the wealth of these children that you have stolen. Create systems back there. Then you will know that you're doing something right. And until you do that, this situation is going to stay the same. But if the African leaders on the other side understand the nature of what I just explained and begin to put systems in place to stop feeding their monies and wealth to Europe and use it for the development of the people. So you have situations where if they take money from the IMF, and of course, the richest people on the earth, the children in the Holy Land, Africa, is taking money from a European institution who tells them, don't build schools, don't build hospitals, don't employ doctors, teachers, and nurses. This money, just take it, squander it, put some in your pocket. It's done. These children will have to pay for it. For generations to come, they will have to pay back the money. So that's why I say Europe is part of the problem and therefore must be part of the solution. You can't expect African leaders who you have put in power as well, who's sending the money to you, sending the resources to you, sending the human resources to you, the resources going voluntarily, you creaming off or brain draining. They will never survive. But I'm come not to give you the gloomy part only. I've come to tell you tonight that a moment is coming, a moment of awakening and truth is coming, where these prodigal children will come to themselves and realize that there is so much wealth in Africa, the Holy Land. That's why the Lebanese are there. That's why the Arabs are there. That's why all the European oil countries are, oil companies are there. It is you that caused Europe to be able to drive in electric cars. When you realize that, you will have to go home and deal with your governments. We saw a recent dealing in Kenya, and a little bit started in Nigeria, but it seemed to have died down because they subvert the movement or infiltrated the movement from time to time. It's not over because Africa has a young population. They say it's about 1.4 billion. And it needs to eat. It needs to live. It needs to have flushing toilets. It needs to turn on taps to get potable water. And they are not going to sit idly by for very long and wait for the leaders who many of them 70, 80, 90 going. They're still leading. That time is going to come to change. So that time will have to change. So there's a story in the Bible where the king of Assyria, I'm going to take you there now. The king of Assyria sent his army. We can go back to chapter 36. He sent his army to the kingdom of Judah. Sennacherib invades Judah. Now, Judah is in southern Africa, the kingdom of Judah and Jerusalem. So Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, he went up to Jerusalem with his army to enslave the people of Judah and Jerusalem. And if they agree to be on the tributary, then they will pay taxes to him. If not, he's going to take them away as slaves. He's going to force them to leave their land, remove them from their land. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defense cities of Judah and took them. Now the king of Assyria operated out of West Africa. That's the land of Assyria, not the fake land that they give you by Iraq. These were not Iraqis. These were people from West Africa in the olden days. This is Ashur's children of Shem in Africa. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Laish to Jerusalem unto the king Hezekiah with a great army. I'm pausing at those points so that you see the similarities with what the nations are doing today. They're using their military to force compliance. France recently, don't know if they're still there, had warships off the coast of Benin because Benin was facilitating France. They had off the coast of Côte d'Ivoire because Côte d'Ivoire was facilitating France. They had off the coast, I think the British had theirs off the coast of Nigeria because Nigeria was facilitating Britain. Now, these three countries that I identified were behaving in much the same way like the king of Assyria. They were going to use their military to force compliance. Now, the people of Nigeria, though they produce oil, is British oil. Though they produce oil, they have darkness. They have blackout, load shedding. Now, just the thought of that should cause somebody to wonder, why would the people not realize that their resources are being stolen? But this is the level of the bewitching of Europe on the continent. And so in verse 3 it says, then came forth unto Eliakim, Hezekiah's son, which was over the house of Shaban, the scribe, and Joah, Asaphat's son, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, say ye now to Hezekiah the king, thus said the great king, the king of Assyria, what confidence is this wherein thou trustest? Who are you trusting in to fight against me? Thus, when the military turns up on your shore, the military is sitting in the seas there, or they're in the land by default or by deception fighting insurgents, and you have them in your space, it means that you can never rise. If you go to rise, they will kill you. They don't call that one coup. They will assassinate you. And so the fight on the continent, and there will be a big fight eventually on the continent, in Megiddo, in West Africa. The countries that should be in support of their brothers who are getting rid of those who have been robbing them, they're working with the enemy. And I used to wonder how our ancestors ended up in captivity. But it's now easy to see, because when you look at France, Britain, and the others who have their interest there, they couldn't accomplish our captivity by themselves. They needed cooperation of our own family and friends on the continent. And they're trying to access that same facility as we speak tonight to bring down the government of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Instead of Nigeria, Benin, Togo join with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, some are choosing to join with the enemy. It's such a thing to look at sitting from the outside. And you ask yourself, how is this possible? When would this change? And what are the governments and leaders on the continent behaving in this manner, hoping to accomplish? Will they accomplish the development of their people and their country? No, they will not. Will they not one day incur the wrath of their people? Yes, they will. And I admire Burkina Faso and the others and watch how the people of those countries support their leaders, because the leaders got their interests at heart. Is that hard to see? Is that difficult to follow? Until we begin to do that, this European created exodus, the movement of the children of Sunini Nanini from the continent, will continue. But Sunini has some plans. And while this story is read, and because of time, I would not read the whole story. When you read, the king of Assyria began to abuse Hezekiah, the king of Judah, and telling him, like, look, you don't waste your time. Why are you having confidence in in Egypt? Egypt can't support you. You know, this conversation is taking place on the continent because he's making reference to the king of Egypt, that that Hezekiah, king of Judah up south, is depending on the king of Egypt to help him. And so Assyria is saying, which is the children of Ashur, is saying, have you ever seen anybody that the king of Assyria never destroy? Any kingdom he has never taken down? And one thing of interest here where I highlighted these, because I was admiring how the deceitful people, not admiring, look at the deception of how these people change the language so you don't know who they're talking. And let me just read from verse 10 before we'll bring the curtains down shortly. Then said Elkanah and Shaban and Joab unto Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants. They have made themselves servants already in mind and in nature to the king of Assyria. But these are men of the kingdom of Judah. He says, speak to thy servants in the language of Aram. That's why you see Syrian there. And I tell you that the word Syria replaced the word Aram. Speak to thy servants in the language of Aramic. For we understood it. And speak not unto us in the Bantu language. Don't talk the language of the local people here. But you see them inserting Jew, the language of the Jews. So you would think that Hebrew and Aramic was there side by side. It's not true. Speak not unto us in the Bantu language, in the ear of the people, because they understand it. Talk to us in Aramic. But Rabshakeh said, had my master sent me, as the king of Assyria sent me to thy master and to thee to speak to thee these words, had he not sent me to the men that sit upon the wall, the common people? I'm come to weaken the hearts of the common people. And that's what the warships on the sides of the sea next to Benin and Togo and Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria and these places, what they're there to do is to induce fear in those who would want to be liberated, who would not succumb to the pressures of a foreign power. And so Rabshakeh says, no, I didn't come to talk to you quietly. I come to talk to the local people, so I'm going to talk to them in the language that they understand. If you don't want them to know, you know I'm saying I want them to understand. To the men that sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own. It's written there. You see, this is the purpose of all invading powers. All powers that keep you into subjection, they want you to become nothing, to eat your own dung and drink your own liquid or urine. Then Rabshakeh stood up and cried with a loud voice, inducing fear, in the Bantu language, and said, hear ye the words of the king of Assyria. Thus said the king of Assyria, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he is not able to deliver you. This is what we see replaying in the area in West Africa. Europe is trying to drive fear. The purpose of Europe is the return to empireship or empirism, which is vampirism. I repeat that. Europe's intention and desire, its strongest desire of the leaders of Europe, is to return to empirism, which is vampirism, sucking the blood of Africa, the Holy Land. And so the call is for this knowledge to be among our people, and so that they don't succumb to this evil. There is enough in the land. There is enough in the land to live on. There is enough to develop. And remove the leaders that don't have the vision. Those are the old ones. Don't have the vision for your development. And install young kings like Ibrahim that will lead the country to access its wealth for its citizens. This needs to happen urgently. And while Hezekiah was panicking and worrying, the word of Sunini came through the prophet Isaiah. And that's where I'm coming down now. And Isaiah, in verse 6 of 37, and Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall you say unto your master, Thus said Sunini, Be not afraid of the words that thou hast heard, wherewith the servants of the king of Assyria has blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land. This is going to happen to Europe. While they sit there, they will hear that somebody is planning to take possession of their land. I didn't say Putin yet. And I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. They're going to fall by the sword in their own land. That's what Sunini's message from the prophet Isaiah was then. And it happened so that when Sennacherib and his army returned to their lands, their own children rose up against them and defeated him. His children took over the kingdom from him. And in that time, the angel of Sunini went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 180 and 5, 185,000 men. Sunini will fight for his people. But you have to have leaders. You have to install leaders, young people in Africa, in the Holy Land, that will hear from Sunini and hear the voice of the prophets of Sunini so that they can effect the change that is needed. Because if this change is not effected, we will forever be slaves to Europe. And we will never again be slaves to Europe. That's Sunini's plan for a Bantu. So I want to urge every young person, you might be tempted. I don't know if anybody let you hear this message. If you are tempted to cross in the boat, because you will never get a visa. That's why the system is developed, so that they can decide who comes. Unless they want to, like America, for election purposes, then everybody gets in. And then, of course, when they finish with that, then they get you out. Get your leaders. There's some that will listen to you, like the leadership in the Gambia. They listen to the people. They listen to the young people with their petition. I'm following these things. And they took the petition in, and they have agreed to make some changes. Kenya, there was a fight on the street, a long fight, because that leader wasn't going to change. But eventually, he's sitting down. He seemed to be very quiet now. You are leading at the auspices of the people of the country. South Africa, the GNU will fail. What fellowship had light with darkness? Or the kingdom of Sunini with idols? Africa will be free. The Holy Land, the land of Canaan, the promised land will be free and will rise to the point where everyone will know that it's the doing of Sunini. He is saving the Holy Land not because of the sake of the people of the land, but because of his own name that has been blasphemed among the Gentiles. And this is a simple message I've come here to share tonight. That this exodus created by Europe, where our people are rushing, some by visa and some by other means, into Europe, the direction of the boat are about to change, because Sonini will redeem his people, scattered to the four corners of the earth. It doesn't matter how you got there. If it was through your ancestors or your own doings, Sonini will deliver his people and bring his people back to his land. That's his word. And so with that being said, I want to thank you tonight for those who have come into the chat room. Allow this message to go over in your mind as you rest December, this Sabbath, in the presence of Sonini Nanini, our Redeemer. And thank you again for coming in the chat room. May the Most High Almighty Sonini Nanini continue to watch over Abantu as we continue to experience his glorious redemption. Thank you and good night. He's appointed a day in which he will judge this world. You want to be found in that day, leaning on his mercy, leaning on his everlasting arms, because the arm of flesh will fail. His only sin is the redeemed. There is no other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved, other than the name Sonini Nanini Samantha.
Black Education TV UKA Bantu Exodus. Black Education TV UKA Bantu Exodus. Black Education TV UKA Bantu Exodus. Black we say hallelujah to Saneni, Zaneni, Samantha. We say hallelujah, Waking up the Bantu from sea.